one right nearby. Whatever this is. And up there, I think where we're eventually going to be going today. Here's a pretty little park. I just wanted to get some of the beauty with the morning fog. This is a very pretty city already. And there's either the palace or Pina Palace or the castle up on top. It's a very pretty walk from the train station into the center of town. There's some very interesting artwork, which I'll get tomorrow. Park art, I'll call it, but not the quiche type, but the more serious type. And off to my right, down below, is a museum in that little valley that we saw earlier. This is my first view of what I think is the tour of the city. My guess is we're going to see a considerable amount of whimsical, pretty Nouveau art type of architecture, reflective of what I think is the Pina Palace. Even that architecture in the back is interesting to the right, and this side of the building is very pretty. This building, with absolutely no indicating sign, is apparently the Palacio Nacional, the National Palace. But I don't see any sign here, and no sign indicating this is where it is. These look like beautiful, spectacular grounds. This is entrance to Almaa Hostel. And this is the road back up to the Quinta de Regulare. So this is the entrance. To the right is a bar, apparently, although I don't see it as open yet. These are some of the grounds of the property that Almaa's a part of. And the entrance to Almaa's right to the left here. So we'll go inside. I'm guessing this was once an old farmhouse or an expensive place. There would have been a furnace or something of that nature. Down here is the kitchen, and this is Barnaby here.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening.
And this is his friend. And this is a bathtub that they prefer you use as a sink. This is an old farmhouse built, it started in the 17th century. And of course there have been modifications made, modern ones. Obviously this is one of them. Ooh, that's a tall bidet. I think I'm upstairs. You can see this was the top of the building, immediately under the roof. This is only about 3 years old. This is my bathroom, or our bathroom up here. There's the shower. This is the 8-bed dorm, I think it is. Yep. I'm over here, but with a pretty view outside into that area we looked at earlier. Very pretty out here in the afternoon. I've opened up my window in the bedroom, but I'll close it shortly because it's probably a little too chilly for that. Okay, we're in the kitchen now, and I'm looking at these tiles because Burnaby and Elizabeth tell me that these are one-offs. In other words, each one is hand-painted, and therefore none of them are the same. And you can see this in a moment. I'll try and illustrate it by comparing two that are somewhat similar in subject. Okay, here's one of a ship. Now I'm going to show you the one that looks most closely exactly like it, except look at these ports on this next one that I show you. Okay, here's the same one. The ports are a little bit different. The ports here are higher on the gunwale, and they're different. Slightly different. I think they're lesser in a color. And that one on the left is more rectangular than the same position on the next one. And I'll now show you the first one again. So this represents some very early and probably very expensive at its time and unique tile work. When the sun comes up and it's brighter in here, I'll try and get better pictures. Here again are two subjects the same, but notice the space between at the bottom of the front sail. Notice that little teat hanging down. Here it's almost non-existent. That little protuberance way over to the left instead of dead center. This is again the way you tell whether old furniture is authentic. When they're like, for example, a set of 6 oak chairs, is whether the carving on them has different elements, not elements, different execution slightly than the other one. I'll give you a look at a bunch here that you can study. And now the next bunch to the right. Okay, I'm now in search of a pool. It was used originally as a reservoir for the farm and may still be used for that purpose, Barnaby told me. Walls and so forth can go back to perhaps the 12th century. This is the farm's greenhouse. What it's used for today, I don't know. Probably in the past, if not today, it's used to propagate plants that can then be more developed efficiently on the farm. So I believe he said it's up above the highest wall, which I think is this one. So we'll keep going up as much as we can in an attempt to find it. Well, that was easy enough. And that may explain what that other pond was, and some of the other ponds I've seen what their function was. But being this high, you can see what a splendid gravity-fed reservoir it is. But look at tiers of 3 more walls. Interesting, the decor here in this little fountain alcove that's been created. How recent this is, I don't know, but are plates. And I think it was in Bangkok at one of the temples off the river, a very famous one, that almost all of the design elements were of fractured pieces of plates and saucers and cups, as well as the whole ones. And here on this wall, just a scattering of some of those same tiles that we'd seen in the kitchen. But searching out the past, number one, look at that huge tree. But here, another fountain area and a little table. So you well imagine that over the centuries people have come up here for a quiet refuge or respite from the work or whatever. And at one time these trees might not have been so thick and gave us a view down into the valley, which even now would be very pretty if we could see it with the fog and the sun. Oh, fenced walkway. You have to imagine there was some very important reason for it. Maybe it was just to give a pretty access to walking about here. Could there have been other features in this pond at different times that gave people aesthetic pleasure? Here's where a gate used to be. You can see it here, it pivoted, and there it latched. And there are some stone steps going down. So this was used as a pool, I would imagine. And down in the water, I don't know if you can see it, but all along the edge is about a 2-foot wide ledge, which probably is part of the construction of this reservoir in order to provide support for so much weighty water. But still, it provides an excellent place to climb out onto when you're swimming. For the fun of it, I'm following some steps and some walkways that may not get very often used. And remember that beyond that cloud bank lies, or under that cloud bank lies the ocean. So the views could have been spectacular. Here a path I suspect takes us deeper and down into the farm, which these hills kind of belie because they're steep. So I'll go back up this way. You see, the problem with these big trees is the very tiny root ball. And the roots that do spread out don't have a whole lot of support. Take this path, which looks like it's well maintained. And you can see that right now I'm on a level with that greenhouse that we passed. So I'll go down in through here and bring myself back up for breakfast. Here's some more of the working area of the farm. And a man working on something over there. Saw a moment ago. Wonder what this curious structure's for. Oh, there we are. Some turkey gobblers and chickens and stuff like that. I'm imagining myself being a very wealthy movie star that satisfies several of my urges, having bought this place. And now just roaming about it each morning as I contemplate a new role or new adventure. It's a rugged climb up here even for automobiles. Look how those rocks are piled on each other there. This looks like a private estate near a park on the way up to the top. So we are in the large circle in the lower right. We're going to walk up along that water feature until we navigate to Palacio de Peña, which is in the center. And you'll notice way over to the left is Castelo do Muros. The Moors Castle. We'll go down to that when we're done here. Okay, we're right down by my thumb. And now we're going to work our way up the map up through here. And then we'll come back into the palace that way. And here is the view across this lovely little pond. As with all these great castles, they were, and palaces rather, and castles, these palaces in particular were the hangouts of the super wealthy. It always astounds me that the people did not rise up earlier against this incredible inequity. It's interesting how later generations forget the price paid for the artist king to create this beautiful park and palace. It's now a park, of course. And of course there's no discussion as to the price in labor and energy and resources paid for this. The answer to my question about why didn't the public react earlier on with all of those kingdoms and dynasties and I'm from God kind of things is best articulated by Alexander Dumas in the book, an excellent book with a soft ending, The Man Who Laughed. So this structure apparently is a duck tower. In other words, a home for ducks. Here comes something like a duck now. I think it's a black swan. So he's following, coming right towards me when I move. I think he's on the take. Or on the beg, whichever you want to call it. Pretty bird. A pair. And I wonder if at the other end of their enclosure, that isn't either a place for them to hang out or access to the next level. I can't imagine it's a tunnel to the next level. I'm guessing it's a little nest area because here's a little pour off from the ponds above. This is I think it's a western spruce called the thuja, with a J here. But it grows in these extraordinary forms at the base anyway. It can. This one, interesting enough, looking like some kind of a beast with that eye staring at you. There are magnificent trees. A pretty park with the palms and the ferns. Western red cedar. They're a pretty little pond with what I think is a faux, or maybe a real, aqueduct. Maybe it's just a retaining wall for the next pond if there is one. Rather, I think it's the entrance to the Queen's Fern Valley. This is called the Fountain of the Small Birds, an Islamic dome style building with an Islamic inscription. Perhaps that's what's at the top or on the side of the dome. Here appears to be the consequence of one big tree falling, and with shallow roots and root balls, it appears, knocking over several other these big beautiful trees. Here, a pretty little spot. You can imagine the king and queen and friends sitting there. This looks like it was either a wading pool for just your feet, or not sure exactly what it was for. As is often the case, what the design includes are various points that the monarch will eventually find to be his favorite, that they can enjoy different perspectives. Of course, the Japanese are superb at this approach. Here's that the entire hillside is laced with these small little pathways, as well as the main paths taking us to main places, and they're paved. And above this little reflection pond that's being shored up, the wall that's to us, we can't see it, is this pretty little bridge. It's blocked off now, but presumably on occasion it's available. Here, this tree creates its own arch. Not sure where I am right now with this cement Muslim looking building here. No idea what it is. A little archway, and it's right next to what appears to be the palace. I suspect this little turreted bridge was designed to amuse the king and queen.